Yes, my throat's back. Absolutely beautiful stuff. It's not at 100%, but it's going pretty well. Show the FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Skeeter, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. My Queenslanders got rolled last night in the State of Origin. Two good blue baggers. Was that Jaden clapping like some seal in the background? I mean, seriously. It's just like, you know, were you born in New South Wales? Do you have any connection with New South Wales?
How good a...
Families from New South Wales.
Good on you, Numpty. How good a Queenslanders.
No, we got rolled, and we deserve to get rolled. And but we're talking footy. And speaking of footy and Origin, that may have been up for discussion this week with the AFL CEOs in town. Even Serong talked just quickly about an AFL Indigenous All-Stars game in February next year. So I think there's a few options on the table for the AFL with Dillo and his merry men in town.
Yes, everyone was in town, all the big CEOs. Laura Kane was here as well. I think they had some proactive discussions perhaps around travel and evening up the schedule. shelterfootycast.com.au is our website. You can follow us on socials, Shelter Footycast, or you can send us an email, get in touch on YouTube, Instagram, or an email, footycast@backchatstudios.com.au. We're giving away 2 tickets to the Freo Melbourne game this week on social media, Skeeter. So make sure you're following us over there, or get your daughters to follow along if you don't know how to use Instagram, just like Mark, Shelter Footycast over on Instagram. Yeah, so the CEOs, the big bosses are all over here. Yeah, from what I've heard, there's been quite a bit of discussion around evening up the fixture, and that may look like teams flying over here to play home games. Certainly it's been on the agenda that the fixture needs to be more even, especially for teams over here in the West.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the WA teams. I mean, you've got this bizarre situation where the Dockers are playing Melbourne for the second time in about 6 or 7 weeks. We haven't seen, up until I think the last week or two, it might even be now, that we haven't seen some clubs play each other once, which has been, I just think there's so many flaws in the system, a very tough system to implement, by the way. But even looking at the Dockers going to Launceston, and we know they've been there, 14 times for 2 wins, and people are saying to me, Collingwood should go there. Well, financially, if you're the AFL, you're not going to put Collingwood, Hawthorn at Launceston. So I get that. But there should be, I think, parameters whereby some of the smaller drawing clubs in Melbourne get that trip to Launceston more regularly. And you try and avoid Fremantle and West Coast going to Darwin, going to Alice Springs, going to Launceston. That's just my opinion. But there's so many. And then you talked about the travel factor. It has been mentioned by Andrew Dillon, as part of his press conference about staying away from home for that extra week. So you play a game against, say, Geelong on a Saturday, then you've got Collingwood the following Saturday, stay in Melbourne for the week, and conversely have clubs do the same over here.
But less about interstates going over there, and talk about Melbourne clubs staying here for a week. Not the other way around. West Coast and Fremantle need no more time away from home.
But that's what he brought that up. He said there's difficulties with broadcasters, with etc. With all. So I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that they heard Don Pike and Simon Garlick and the Eagles and Dockers. I'm not sure they will listen as much as what they heard.
There's a fair bit going on in multiple facets of the game that I'm not sure the people in charge of the AFL actually know what's going on. I don't think they've got their finger on the pulse.
So they've got it more than we have.
I don't think they do, which is
really
very worrying. Very worrying. Like, let's move to the topic of the week, right?
Yes.
So Charlie Cameron and Toby Bedford, both 3 weeks for tackles. I think the vast majority of people I speak to, and I know on social media, everyone's outraged all the time about everything, right? And I can be like that as well.
Yes.
So sometimes I think, well, is it a silent majority that people going, well, what are you talking about that we should be doing? That should be 3 weeks. I don't think that's the case. I think most people look at both of those tackles and think, well, they shouldn't be out of our game.
Well, let me say this. So a lot of journalists have their say. I'm one of those who haven't played the game. I know you don't always defer to blokes like yourself or Kane Corns or even the great Lee Matthews. But when Elliot Yeo comes out even and says about the tackle laid by Charlie Cameron, what do you want to put a pillow under his captain's head? So he even thought it was over the top. I was angry on Monday about this, speaking to you about the Cameron penalty, the Bedford one as well. I just don't know how players in our game that is so quick, that is so 360, And look, the argument that'll be put against us is this year there's been, according to the AFL, 11 dangerous tackles.
Yep.
Last year, 35.
Yep.
Up to the same point, I'm presuming. So maybe the education is taking time, but the two cases in point that we're looking at from this week, I don't think they fall into the categories that we were anticipating, like the sling tackle, the dump tackle. I don't think they are of that nature. But I defer to those who know better.
My biggest issue, and it's not because I've played the game, and I'm not. No,
but you have a different insight.
But so my biggest issue is the reasonable player profile that's getting rolled around, and what the reasonable player should be doing, or should be thinking about, or should be doing mid tackle. It's unreasonable. So these things that are being rolled out by legal counsel, reasonable player would anticipate that this was a dangerous tackle. Reasonable player wouldn't put force, running through Liam Duggan. Reasonable player, this and that. It's unrealistic and unreasonable. So they're not providing an alternative that's actual reality. The alternative is not real. So okay, 11 dangerous tackles, that might be the case, but that still means that most weeks there's someone getting rubbed out from a tackle that they don't know whether they're going to get rubbed out or not.
No, they do.
Up to chance.
They do, because if Liam Duggan gets up and plays on, I can always guarantee you Charlie Cameron doesn't get suspended.
Yeah, see, this is the issue though. Harley Reid, his tackle, the player that he tackled played on and gets 2 weeks. So you've got Harley Reid type tackles in that. So that's action getting rubbed out over outcome, and then you've got Charlie Cameron ones where it's outcome over action.
But
so there's no consistency.
Do you think
and then Patrick Dangerfield talks his way out of it?
Yeah. Do you think if Duggan wasn't concussed, and look, I'll be honest with you, they're talking about Charlie not allowing one arm to be free. It's a front-on tackle. I don't know how when you're in
that's what I'm saying. It's impossible.
Then I agree. I am so sympathetic with the players. The players are confused. They're saying they're confused. We as onlookers are absolutely unsure of where these rules are going. I understand the reason behind it. I understand in the totality of it with protecting players' brains moving forward. But our game is so unique.
Andrew Dillon's had a howler a couple of weeks in a row, I think, with his messaging. He's come out and said the umpiring's never been better. Whether or not it has, you don't need to come and say that. All it opens itself up for is criticism, saying it's never been better. It's subjective, so you can't say that. And then he's come out yesterday or the day before saying the tribunal is functioning exactly how it should be. It's not. And even if it is, you can challenge that. So I don't know why the CEO is coming out on the defensive. Even why can't he say, hey, maybe we haven't got this right. Maybe we're working on making this a better system. We're working on finding better ways to find better outcomes. You can say all of those things. He's been very definitive and defensive, I think, and I think it's put him in a little bit of hot water and the AFL.
Yeah, well, put it this way: both clubs have decided to go to the nth degree to get their players at least a chance to get off. And some of those tribunal members include Wayne Henwood, former player, Richard Loveridge, former player. So they're on the sitting tonight, I think it'll be.
But isn't this secondary challenge? Isn't it on the process and the rulings rather than they've already challenged the MRO?
So in my opinion, this is coming out of the Travis Kelce book, but if you go to this level, do you not need new evidence, or is it just trying to spin it differently?
Have you ever seen Double Jeopardy? It's a movie where someone gets charged with murder, then gets out but haven't murdered, he can't get tried twice.
That's right.
Is that what this is?
I don't know. Either way, Tom Kersey, KC, AC would be laughing at us two buffoons trying to work our way through the legal ramifications of tonight's proceedings.
There we go. Thank you, Travis. Right. All right. So I don't know what's going to happen, mate. What do you think's going to happen?
I think they'll still get the time.
Same.
Can they actually get their? This is asking a question which I'm sure you don't have the answer to.
Please.
Can they get their sentence or their suspension reduced tonight, or is it either all or nothing?
I think it might be all or nothing, but it also could be the opposite.
We should have maybe looked into this, but mind you, it's not our role to.
Well, to know anything?
Well, the tribunal's a very complex beast.
Yeah, correct.
And so is the appeals board.
I agree. The only one for mine was the elbow, the Malcolm Roses Jr. elbow to the back of the head. That should be 5 weeks. You can't run past someone and elbow them in the back of the head and say sorry and get 1 week. I don't know what's happening with the system. There's a few other things going on. Skeeter, Lance Collard will be on the sidelines for 6 weeks after a string of homophobic slurs in a VFL game over the weekend. I think that messaging is quite clear, and I think the system's working perfectly there.
It is. It's to multiple players. So, I think previously we've seen, whether it was Finlayson, Powell, by all accounts, it was one derogatory term to one player, and that was dealt with. I still maintain it. Collards is different because it was to multiple players, multiple times. But I want the AFL, I think I mentioned this previously, is if there's a homophobic slur delivered, which I'm sure there will be moving forward because we know that'll happen, just give us a set penalty. Give us 5 weeks. Don't keep going 3, 5, 7. Just give me one penalty. Because it's like you saying a homophobic slur in round 1, getting 3 weeks. I say it in round 4, and I get 6 weeks. Why?
Are they trying to stamp it out more? Are they giving less leniency?
Well, so the third person gets 10 weeks?
Maybe.
Just give us a set penalty. Got no issue with that. But let us know. Is it 6 weeks? If you're accused and found guilty, move on. So Lance, he's had a tough time moving across from Perth to Melbourne with the Saints, and he'd love to be back in WA. That's my gut feeling. But at the moment, he's going to have to sit and watch the rest of the year from the sidelines.
Jack Buckley, our boy at BackChat.
I saw it.
What's happening here? Can you explain to me what's happening here?
I can. Well,
so his partner, hurdler, has made the Australian.
Yeah, she's a very, very good hurdler. I'm just got to make sure I can pronounce her surname properly because it's got an Italian. It's got an Italian sort of twist to it.
So she's made the Olympic hurling team, and she'll be competing at the Olympics in Paris.
Yes. So it's Celeste Mucci. Mucci. I'm told if you're in Italy, it's Mucci or Mucci.
Is that right?
Well, that's what I'm told. But again, I've got some very
Who's told you that?
Dodgy Italian mate of mine. Anyway, Celeste. Let's call her Celeste. She's going to compete at the Olympics in Paris.
Yep.
And Jack, your man, has gone to Adam Kingsley and apparently said, wouldn't mind watching my girlfriend compete at the Olympics. And the coach has gone, all right, who are you playing that week? Look down, the Brisbane Lions. He said, this is quoting, no, sorry, you're not going away for that one. Now, whether there's a bit of theatre in this, because the Giants are the funniest club in the country in terms of the messaging and what they put out with their social media, whether there's any theatre with this or not, but we've seen it before this year with Ed Langdon going across for his sister's wedding.
Yes.
Oleg Markov has done something similar. We've seen 2 or 3 cases across the AFL.
Skeeter, I've got to the bottom of this one. I didn't tell you.
Why'd you let me go down that path? Because
because I enjoy listening to you, Skeeter. This has been taken so far out of context, it's not funny.
Is he going?
He's not going to the Olympics, and he potentially never was. I think it was a chat, and yeah, they looked at the schedule but it wasn't a sit down. Hey, I've got to speak to you about something. I want to go to Paris to watch my girlfriend. It was more of a having a conversation. And Jack was like, well, she's going to Paris. Like, does it line up with the schedule? And they looked at the schedule and it was like, well, okay, well, Brisbane's playing. Like, we're not going to do that.
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, but the way it's being reported is if Jack sat down and has requested leave from the club and Adam Kingsley's refused his leave and they've locked down the borders and he can't do this and that.
I never thought it was that.
Okay,
but he said,
others in media
Jack has said, he was a bit scared to broach the subject with Adam. So imagine if she, just out of interest, makes, I'm not sure the time difference between the heats and the finals, imagine if for some reason she makes the final and he's got a day and a half to get there. I don't know. What would it take for you as a player to, I say abandon, leave your club in the middle or an important part of the season? Obviously, in a cricketer's circumstance, it's the birth of their child.
Yep.
Obviously, the death of a loved one overseas or interstate is an easy one.
So I played after Dad passed away, so I've got to tick that box. I did stay home. I was selected to be emergency, so travelling emergency for a Sydney game, and Alex was heavily pregnant. And I said, no, I don't want to go. And Alex had Nash on a Saturday, like on the day after the boys played.
So you were there for the birth?
I was there for the birth.
So what can I ask you, as a travelling emergency, what sort of spondula do you get?
Nothing.
Oh, so there's no benefit to you going?
No. But I opted out for that. And I missed being a groomsman of one of my best mates.
I think you've made that quite clear.
What?
Well, was being the Sydney match where you...
Correct.
Yeah, you've told that with a fair bit of venom in your voice as well at the time.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I've been through the same thing. My dad passed on Friday. I went and did a podcast 20 minutes later, called the game on the Sunday. That's different, though. This is obviously a more lighter, brighter... and you'd love to be there, but... These things were always a possibility, given that the Olympics were in July, August.
He can flick it on. He can flick the TV on as well. He can watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
You don't have to be there.
No, I
to
get
watch
it,
Just
but what if? Okay, let me ask this: if the Giants were playing the Eagles or North Melbourne at NG Stadium,
I don't think he was ever going. It
was a cheeky request, you think?
Mate, flying to Paris, it's not exactly a just trip across the Nullarbor, is it?
No, I was there last year.
What, Paris?
I was in Paris. Yeah,
Where?
Yeah, I went from London for the Ashes to Paris.
I didn't know you were in Paris.
Absolutely.
You see the Eiffel Tower?
Moulin Rouge. Of course, I went up to
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, that's the females.
I know what it is. You enjoy
no
that?
tops on. None at all. Zero.
His body's off the chain today. I don't know what's happened.
Well, you're up and about. Good to see, because you're like a sick little puppy dog on Monday, and you carried on with the man flu bullshit, and now we've got you back. Good to see.
Serong, shut up. Caleb Serong and Andy Brayshaw meet with Liam Baker. News breaking. What do you think about this one?
Well, I thought it was done and dusted. He's going to the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, maybe they think and know that as well, and they're trying to put a bit of the sell on him. They're trying to sell the culture and the club and the people.
Possibly. Again, this is not the first time players have met with others, reportedly in the market or on the market. So, all I've heard is that Liam Baker is linked to the West Coast Eagles. Shea Bolton's the interesting one, but he's got a fairly decent contract, which publicly at least everyone's saying he's at Richmond for the foreseeable.
How much does Liam Baker cost? Do they have to? Can't they just add him? Won't he be out of contract?
As an well, how much is he worth?
That's what I'm asking. 26 years old.
I wouldn't be. So let me ask you this question: Is he one of the elite midfielders in the AFL?
No.
So what does Liam Baker, apart from obviously his experience and he's obviously a very good citizen, what is the key footballing reason you bring Liam Baker to your club?
Well, I think players like him are really big additions to the club. I look at West Coast. Jack Redden would be a good example.
Yep.
He comes to the club. There's a lot of pressure on Reddo when he comes to the club and doesn't play that well in his first year. And he wasn't an elite midfielder, but he was a good midfielder. I would say he's very similar to Liam Baker.
Very important part of your 18.
And then 2018, a player like that, it just gives you the extra player to run through the midfield.
But my question is with Liam, and look, they might not, but just how much are you going to, centralise your money wise, and
you wouldn't want to give up too much.
No, I agree, and that's not downplaying what a player is, but it's also about where your club is at.
Freo, he would be very good at Freo, and I think he'd be the type of Reddo player to go to Freo and help them win a flag.
If you got to wait for another year, for instance, to get Warner, if that's the case, just in a dream world for Fremantle,
their midfield would be off its head.
They got 3 first-rounders:
Young, Brayshaw, Serong, Baker, Warner. Like that would be off its absolute nut. Freo fans getting a little bit excited about that one.
That's what you've got to do. In all seriousness, to compete with the best clubs in the competition, I still think that type of midfield depth on paper, that gives you a really good look at September.
That could win you 5 flags in a row. Sean Darcy.
Sorry? 5 flags.
Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson.
Can we just get 1 flag for Freo before we start getting
Skeeter goes whack, clip.
No, 5 flags in a row has been done since Collingwood. In the 50s.
They win 5
I think they won 5 in a row. Just check that, Jade. But yeah, you don't win 5 flags in a row.
Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shelter FootyCast. I don't know why it's so loose today. I like it a little bit.
It's raining.
St Kilda, West Coast. Let's get into the games.
Yeah.
That just has stinker written all over it. Marvel, Saturday, 11:45. St Kilda, West Coast. I don't know if there's a lot of excitement about this one.
There's not a lot.
After St Kilda 5 goals last week.
St Kilda play the most unattractive.
At least West Coast scored.
Yeah.
They were 90 points or something.
They're like they're a kind of personality disorder, St Kilda. And I think, no, seriously, you watch them against Brisbane up at the Gabba. Ross releases the shackles.
Yes.
They come back against Sydney and play exceptionally well.
It's the same.
the same. They go to Adelaide, they play Puparama, and then they against Port Adelaide, I think it was 6 goals apiece. I don't think that'll be the case on the weekend because I don't think West Coast have got that. That's not their sort of DNA. They'd like to be a more attacking style. That's my gut feeling. Jake Waterman seems to be still a question mark as to whether he'll play.
I don't think he'll play.
Yeah,
I don't think Jake Waterman.
He doesn't look like he's been right for a couple of weeks.
No, I reckon he needs a rest. He's sort of like limping, and we know he had that cut, but it's been reported injury report Monday, ITB, friction and tightness, and
Sorry, what's ITB mean?
it's the iliotibial band.
Thank you very much. Well, it's ITB to means absolutely
The
zero.
reason you don't say it is because it's very hard to say. it's the strings if you on the side of your leg that goes all the way down your hammy, your quad.
I've done the hamstrings many times, and just sometimes only just going for a jog up the road. So I know about strings.
So that's ahead of he's on 99 games. So it's his 100th this week.
Save for the Derby.
Yeah, so
he can get booed by the Dockers.
The away Derby. Liam Duggan will miss, of course. He needs a couple of weeks out, I reckon.
The Gov's going to miss another week.
Yes, which is good for Harry Edwards.
He was good last week.
Yeah.
He was really good. But who else comes into that line? Jack Darling has been mentioned as a possible, but...
Well, yeah, I think it's either Jack Darling or the big fella. He kicked 4-3 last week. Can you just pad while I find his name, please?
Well, begs the question. Jai Cully is the guy that has been in pretty good touch as well at waffle level. Does he not come in? They beat West Perth last week, for what it's worth.
So Archer Reid. This is the kid.
Yeah, he was drafted.
Over 200 centimetres. He's the other Reid that they picked up last year, right? So they got Harley Reid and they got Archer Reid.
Poor old Archer sees the headlines of the West every week, and once he might say, any dangerous Archer instead of Harley?
So it may be, mate. He kicked 3-4 last week, so 7 shots on goal. From all reports, like he's a big boy. Some of these kids now, mate, like athletic ability,
Massive.
over 200 centimetres, like that is significantly taller than me. I am 195. So if I came up against someone over 200, like that's a size and reach advantage, right? You put your hands out and they've got a whole hand in front of your own hand. So I think he could be a real chance, mate. It depends how much West Coast want to lead into this
rebuild,
play the kids,
and that's exactly. Look, I haven't seen enough of him at all to really venture a recommendation on whether they should get him in there. But if they do, I mean, why not have a look at him at some stage this year if he keeps playing good footy, whether it's this week or the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Tyler Brockman will be out. So they should have I think they got 3 definite changes, Waterman, Duggan, Brockman.
Yep.
So who comes in? Let's say Archer Reid comes in and not Jack Darling. Jai Cully is still banging the door down, I believe, 2 goals and 21 disposals. Campbell Chesser was dropped back there last week. He probably needs a couple more weeks back there. Clay Hall, I can't keep calling his name.
Kicked one of the goals of the round last weekend
Is
against.
that right?
Yeah, I saw the goal and. Maybe
get him in, please.
Maybe there's some deficiencies that they're still trying to work on, but again, that goes out the table a bit off the table once Adam Simpson's gone and Jared Schofield comes in. Maybe the imprimatur is Scoey. Just let's have a look at as many of these players as we can, even if they're not 100% right to go under normal circumstances. Let's have a look.
I'd like to see Jai Cully, Clay Hall, and Archer Reid come into the side this week.
Well, nothing ventured.
We haven't even spoken about St Kilda. I don't know anything about them.
No, St Kilda's got a really weird season next to their name, and the big move for them is Josh Battle as to making sure that he stays.
Mate, did I hear
1 point something from Hawthorn
for a year?
Yeah.
What? What?
What's Ben Mackay at on?
Yeah, but Ben Mackay, and with all due respect to Josh Battle, like Josh Battle's had a great year. I think he's leading the league in marks, maybe intercepts, he plays, but he's an in-between guy. He's not a big key. Like Ben Mackay plays on the best player every week. Yeah. And I know he's, like Harris Andrews, the best backman, but Ben Mackay plays a very important role. Josh Battle's not going to do that.
No, it just seems strange that you're a real Jack Buckley type and you're a defender of the defenders, but you've just suddenly just thought...
I think I'm a little bit bitter.
and twisted.
Like $1 million a year. I would have liked $1 million over 5 years. Seriously.
Anyway, that's the Saints. They'll be winning, I think. But I don't think it's a game the Eagles are not without a chance in.
They went relatively close to St Kilda here at Optus. It feels like it wasn't that long ago. Skeeter, just an update. 1927, 1928, 1929 and 1930. Collingwood 4 in a row.
That's right. And of course, that's when
did you enjoy those games?
Yeah, they're fantastic. I like the 28 game because at the time the The 4 and 20s were really cheap, and the records, you dickhead. Anyway, so they won 4 in a row. Port Adelaide stopped Brisbane's attempt to win 4. So no team is winning 5 while you and I are alive.
Might be Fremantle. Fremantle v Melbourne, Optus Sunday. You're going to live forever, Skeeter. So you'll see.
I'm going to do that chrome. What's it called? Oh, going to get my body frozen.
Cryovac. No.
Yeah, get frozen. Yeah.
Cryovac. What they do?
Whatever it's called. Cryovac. Yeah.
Cryovac's what they do.
I'll come back and
with fish.
And when you're 80, I'll terrorise you.
Put you in a deep freezer. It's out the back of the BackChat Studios.
Well, there's been a few serial killers that have done that over the journey.
Fremantle v Melbourne. This is so loose. Shelter FootyCast. Hey. Oh, who are we
St
going
Kilda.
for?
Go and have your roughie. Last week it was West Coast.
Was it?
Yeah, it was against Brisbane.
How did that go?
It was okay.
It was actually
you'd
pretty
be a
good.
loss.
I'll take St Kilda. I will find a roughie for you though.
Me too.
Fremantle v Melbourne, Optus Sunday, 1:20 game. So a bit of a early Sunday game, which is
It's a network game for 7, I suspect, because that'll lead into their 6 o'clock news. William,
Does that mean I
You're
don't
out
have
of
to work?
work.
Does that mean I don't have to work?
That means you can have a big night on Saturday night on the
No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm
Are you
off
off
for beers.
still?
Oh, I don't have to work this weekend. How good's that?
Maybe you should put in some
got
time with
Sunday
your
off.
family. Maybe reintroduce yourself to your family.
Thank you, Nostradamus or Apostles
Just call me
or
Family Guy.
Romeo.
It's going to be Family Guy.
Sean Darcy is back. Alex Pearce is back. Luke Ryan's 150th game. That's 3 really big ins. We spoke about Alex Pearce. Would have been the guy on James Sicily last week, and he might have been the guy to get them over the line, but they don't do that. This would be a really interesting game. There's speculation Max Gawn could make the trip, but I don't think he's going to. It knocks you around a trip like that, and if you're not right and something happens over here, it makes it even worse.
Yeah, conditions are going to be possibly not great in terms of the weather, and gee, it's just hard not to go back to what the Dockers did to the Demons in Alice Springs. Feels like maybe less than 2 months ago, and how they can turn that around if Gawn doesn't play particularly. And we saw that Essendon didn't take advantage of the Melbourne ruck deficiencies last week. I'm not sure if Darcy and Jackson are there. They're going to have that luxury. So,
Mate.
but they're, to be fair, if it's a bit of a slippery wet day, then it does bring Melbourne into the game a bit with their contested footy, because we saw it last week.
Yeah.
You and I both. That's their one wood.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you think there's a chance of rain Sunday?
There's showers forecast.
Sean Darcy will have 500 hit outs if he has to ruck against Van Rooyen. Who was we liked his game against
Love him as a
Essendon.
player,
He's competitive, he was athletic, and he tried his guts out. But it doesn't matter against Sean Darcy. Sean Darcy is a different level to Sam Draper, and then Luke Jackson, if you don't mind, he's probably a step up as well. So, look, I really think that gives them a significant advantage. I don't think Max Gawn plays, and I think Freo roll them up. I can't see it 100-point loss happening again.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't see that going on again.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Look, I was impressed by Melbourne last week, and they can make the finals, but they can't win it. They're this sort of side that I think but I do like some of the young kids. I like some of the kids. Rivers is outstanding. I think McPhee's good.
Yes.
Windsor, they've got some.
Cozzy Pickett's young enough.
Mid-20s, is he? Yeah. Anyway, he's just got the X factor for them. But no, I'm a fan of Melbourne's list moving forward. But I just 23. So he's young. Yeah, he's a player that could slot him very nicely at a club over here if they got the opportunity. But no, I'm picking Fremantle to win this, and I thought they weren't that bad against the Hawks. So on that basis, I'm going to give them another chance against a Melbourne side that they'll certainly remember what happened to them in Alice Springs.
Yeah, I think they'll be looking to bounce back, but not enough. I pick Fremantle too. Essendon v Adelaide is our Friday night game, Skeeter. So that'll be an interesting watch along for sure. Essendon, I don't know. I said that I rated them. I said that I wasn't going to pick them until they're any good, and then I started rating them, and then they put out a performance like last week. It brings me back to the norm of thinking Essendon, when it gets tough, aren't good enough. And so whether or not Adelaide are going to produce that, probably not. It's Marvel Stadium. It's under the lid. So they'll probably get their game back, and they'll probably smack Adelaide, and then they'll look $1 million, and they'll jump up the ladder, and everyone will start thinking about how good Essendon is. But I just think in an open-air arena where there's a chance of weather and there's a chance the other side brings a heavily contested game, Essendon are nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, they can't match.
I don't disagree.
sides.
I mean, September you'd think it would be a bit more conducive weather-wise for them, but they're not playing anything under the roof at Marvel in that finals period if they get there. For what it's worth, Essendon's won their past 7 against Adelaide. The most recent one, of course, was a controversial late decision or non-decision by the umpire with Sam Draper lying on the footy at the Adelaide Oval. So that was massive. And so just one stat for you. I don't normally throw them out here, but last week against the Saints, the Crows recorded a round and season high pressure factor of 217. They're equal second highest over the last 10 years.
Well, they'll need to do that against Essendon. That's how you beat Essendon. Put pressure on them.
Yeah, and they can score Adelaide when they get the game played on their terms. So I'm going to tip Essendon in this game. I think they will probably win the game. I think that Adelaide, like Essendon, are quite happy playing at Marvel.
I think Essendon win and they win big. I think it's a big win on Friday night. Don't know why I'm feeling that, Skeeter, but that's what I'm thinking. They need a bit of a percentage boost, Essendon. They're the only side in the top 12 with a percentage under 100. The only other side in those sorts of areas is Hawthorn on 95. They're at 98.8%, so they need a percentage boost.
Well, yeah, and from memory, I don't think
how close
they
this
haven't
year
smacked any teams. They haven't been smacked conversely, so that's the end result.
GWS v Gold Coast. It's the what do they call this? The Confederation Cup or something? No, it's the
They're not playing the Sydney Swans. They're playing what's the Gold Coast?
No, the Gold Coast GWS. It's like the Inception Club Cup.
Is that right?
I don't know. It should be.
It should be.
It's the two sides that have been built from nothing.
No, well, that's right.
Are they calling it something?
I don't know.
The Expansion Cup.
Is that what it's called?
Well, it might be.
If you're going to be really blatant about this, you say, well, this game's out of the Gold Coast and the Suns are no chance. That's the long and short of it, which
absolutely.
Which is probably a bit harsh.
Toby Bedford's important to them, so he at the moment is out.
He is, and I don't think he'll get his ban reversed. If he does, then there'll be a bit of noise made about that.
The Suns have not won a game that wasn't a home game, so technically they have won out of Gold Coast. Yes, in Darwin. They won there twice. Is that right? They played there twice.
They belted Geelong and they beat.
So they would have been petitioning at the CEOs to just have all their away games played in Darwin. Brent Daniels' 100th game, but can the Suns play any sort of reasonable footy away from home? I was asked a question on footy, AFL Tonight, on Fox Footy last night. What exactly do the Suns have to do? I've been in teams at West Coast where we've been so bad away from home. And I was trying to think of things that we did to rectify it. So one, I think you definitely have to talk about it. Like I've been done both where like no one wants to speak about it. We're just going to pretend
nothing's happening.
Treat it. It doesn't matter. We win home and away, and we bring our same effort. But there becomes a trend and a pattern of behaviour. And you need to talk about it, and you need to think about what your preparation's like. So I came back to that for West Coast 2018. And this might sound stupid, but Adam Simpson banned dessert. I don't know if you remember that sort of story being around. So you go to a hotel, you're staying away from home, you get a buffet. Food is like buffet style. So the first night you get there, we stayed 2 nights, mind you. You got steak, you got chicken, you got veggies, you got rice, you got parsley, eat whatever you want. So you get in there first night. Mate, I'd go and knock off 2 steaks, a piece of chicken, go back for thirds, and then there'd be some dessert lying around. You're not copping that at home, right? I'm certainly not, right? So, and that's, no disrespect to anybody. It's just not how you eat at home.
Yeah, no.
And then the night before the game, you'd have 3 things of parsley and be that carbo loaded up. And then you'd go and knock off a bit of sticky date pudding. And so Simo said, no dessert. You're not eating dessert at home. Why are we getting dessert away? And I kicked up a real stink over that. I said, mate, don't take my sticky date pudding and my chalky mousse away from me. But what it did do was make you think about your preparation. When you are away from home, things are different. You're staying in a different bed. Your hours are different. You're training on different ovals. You got all your shit in a suitcase. Like anyone's travelled. Like it's just a different setup. So you really got to focus on your preparation, I think. And they are still a really young team. So I think they don't have that right at the moment. And I think that's why they're underperforming.
When they do, they're going to be a scary side.
Yeah, correct.
Let's be honest. I'm going to keep this simple. Toby Green kicked 11 goals in his last 3 games against the Suns. He looks like it's the Tigers, of course. He was enormous. With him back in form, I think the Giants can do some real damage moving forward, picking them to win.
So am I. GWS, man.
What are you laughing at?
Jaden just chucked on the GWS theme song, and you can't hear it because you don't have a headphone on. Hawthorn, what are you laughing at? Hawthorn's beat Collingwood MCG. This excites me.
Match of the round.
Yeah, this excites me. I'm genuinely looking forward to this. Is this essentially an elimination final, this one?
I think, if you're working in the media, you'd say elimination final. That's
what we do, right?
It's huge.
I'm
saying, if you're doing a...
So this is 12th v 13th on the ladder. They sit a game out of 7th spot. If you don't win this game, you're going to probably be 2 games back with 5 games or 4 games to go in the season. So you're not... Yeah, if you don't win this, go home.
There's not much
a lot on the line.
Margin for error for Hawthorn, given where they sit, and Collingwood. Well, 6 weeks ago, we thought, okay, they're top 4, they're top 2. Now they're lucky to make top 8. Let's be honest. They have to start winning some matches. And it's more about how they're going about their footy that looks a bit of a concern.
I can tell you who the Freo Dockers will be cheering for in this one, and that'll be Hawthorn, because the Freo Dockers have Collingwood's round 1 pick, courtesy of the Lockie Schultz trade. Now, Collingwood, there's been a bit of talk about this week. Collingwood at the time are trying to add someone to a premiership squad in Lockie Schultz, right? They lost Jack Ginnivan by choice. They moved him on. Lockie Schultz at the time, and still is, I think, was looked to be a pretty shrewd acquisition. And when they gave that first round pick, I think Collingwood think, well, we're finishing top 4, worst case 4th, best case 1st. Have pick 18 to 30, depending on how many NGA academies and bloody father-sons are involved in the first round. Have pick 30 for Lockie Schultz. But the way this is going, Collingwood are going to finish 14th on the ladder, and they're going to give him pick 6 or 5 in the draft for Lockie Schultz. So Freo are just going, absolutely, go the Hawks, go everyone who plays Collingwood.
Yeah, and look, now the criticism starting to come about the Lockie Schultz deal, which is, I'm saying it's like for like, but when the Eagles brought Tim Kelly to the club and what they gave up to get him. So at the time, not too many people said, this is a terrible list management decision by the Collingwood Footy Club, did they?
No, and Lockie Schultz was never going to go there and kick 50 goals.
No, but
he's an effort player.
But he suited their style of...
He still does.
Of their forward line.
So perhaps they just overpaid a little bit because of their own season.
Yeah, he's not the reason that they're struggling. What the numbers that do interest me is that since round 15, the Magpies have lost the inside 50 count by 14 per game. That is last.
You're not going to...
So you're not getting any entries, and your forwards, well, people say they're not kicking a score. Well, they're not getting a look at it.
That's on the midfield. And how you move the footy. So there's red flags everywhere. Sam Mitchell has never been scared to tag people, so I wonder if Nick Dacos cops a tag in this one, Skeeter. James Sicily would be the other one. Do you keep him forward after what he was able to do? No Mitch Lewis. I think they probably do the same. They'll probably start him back
and then just see how the match unfolds. Yeah. And because there's no real tall major threats in Collingwood's forward line. Have a think about it. Jamie Elliott's back in the side, but there's no Myercheck. Obviously, Mason Cox isn't there, and there's not a real key forward of any note there. So
maybe he does start forward.
Well, no, I think they'll do what you suggested. They'll start him back as his natural habitat, but if need be, and depending on the match requirements, Sam Mitchell's a smart man. He'll know when to pull the trigger.
Who wins it? Look, I'm gonna pick Hawthorn in this one. I think they're one of the form sides in the comp, been literally tooting that trumpet for a long time now, Skate, and I think they continue on their roll. It was a terrific win last week against Freo. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing from Collingwood, so I'll pick Hawthorn and look forward to Collingwood rolling Hawthorn at the G properly.
Well, I'll echo your thoughts and sit back and watch Collingwood somehow after 6 weeks of me tipping them find something and make me look stupid again. No, Hawthorn's trust level's going really nicely. They at the very least, they got beaten by the Cats down there, which a lot of good sides have done over the years. But outside of that, they've been outstanding.
Geelong, Western Bulldogs down at Caninier Park, 5:30 Saturday night game. I like seeing night games in Geelong, actually. We for a long time there didn't see that, but we do now, and I like it. Adam Treloar with a calf should return. Aaron Norton should return with the concussion. And James O'Donnell will also return. So they obviously were out both at the same time 2 weeks ago. They'll all be back. So they're all big ins for the Bulldogs. They're going to have to have a good game down at Caninier Park to beat the Cats. They're going to have to play well. We always do down at beautiful part of the world.
But the Cats got rolled by the Bulldogs late last year, if my memory serves me correct, when the Cats missed the finals.
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure that's the case. It might have been the week before the Dogs lost to the Eagles, remember, which cost them a chance at the finals. But you're right, though. Their numbers are outstanding. Geelong has won 11 of its last 12 against the Dogs at the venue by an average of 31 points. Let me just quick shout out to a young West Aussie who's going beautifully, Lawson Humphreys for the Cats. Hit his target with 22 of 23 disposals last week against the Magpies. So isn't it great to see?
Former West Coast Academy player.
Was he? I didn't realise former West Coast. I knew he played for Swan Districts. Didn't realise the connection with the
NGA
Eagles.
player.
I'm sure the Eagles supporters would be rapt that you're bringing that up at this point. But no, Cats keep proving a couple of us wrong. And I thought they'd fallen off the cliff after a really good start to the season. You thought they were gone at the start of the season. So, mate, they could get the double chance.
Mate, you could have called it. Oh, the shit I've been giving you about your call about Geelong, mate. They're making their way back up into that top 2. So you could be right after all.
But I'm used to copying that type of vitriol from you. I just say refer to the latter because it doesn't normally lie. Although this year,
so are they the third best side in the comp at the moment?
At the moment, what's the top 2? Sydney, Carlton.
Yep.
Then it's Geelong. Who's underneath them?
Brisbane, Fremantle, Essendon, GWS, Melbourne.
If I was being honest, I would say Sydney, Brisbane, Hawthorn.
Brisbane, what a comeback that's been. Let's stay on this game though, Skeeter.
Geelong.
I was going to ask who gets the job on Jeremy Cameron.
So they're still missing Liam Jones, I gather.
Yes. So they got Buku Karmas and Rory Lobb. If Rory Lobb goes to Jeremy Cameron, that is just one of the more bizarre. If you said to me on the bingo card at the start of this year, Rory Lobb's playing key position back for Western Bulldogs and he's lining up on one of the best forwards in the comp in Jeremy Cameron, I would have laughed my head off. So I don't know how Rory's doing it, but he's doing a pretty good job being competitive. That'd be a bloody tough ass to go and play in.
So
Jeremy
who are the
Cameron.
options? You mentioned
Buku.
O'Donnell.
Mate, James O'Donnell might, but I think he's a little slow.
Yeah, so at least they've got some options. Whereas going against Carlton, and mind you, they won that game at Marvel last week. They were short on options down back, weren't they, against Cameron and Mackay? So
yes,
look, while the Bont is playing good footy and they've got Libba in there, they're finding different ways to go. I love the fact that Waitman's back in the side. So Dogs, again, their best is almost as good as anyone. But their variation in form is one that it's hard to factor in.
Reece Stanley was best on ground in the VFL last week. Our resident Geelong fan, Riley, tells me. So he could come back into the side to then free up Sam de Koning to go and play on a Darcy Norton or Ugle-Hagan. I think that probably will happen. I'll pick Geelong as well, only because it's a Cardinia Park. I think Bulldogs would challenge them under the dome.
Yep.
You're on Geelong too?
Yes.
Port Adelaide v Richmond. Adelaide Oval, this one. How much time do you want to spend on this? Seriously, Richmond becoming absolutely irrelevant in this competition.
Yeah, you're probably right. And this is one of my daughters said to me, doesn't follow footy, how long is the Richmond coach going to last? And I said, well, let's be honest.
A while.
Because he's a first-year coach, he's had horrific injuries, and he's coming with the toughest job in footy, I've got to say, because you've got a club that's been up for a long time and they're sort of on the natural progression of the AFL, they're heading in that direction. So, no, I think they're going to have to obviously go through some pain and they're not going to have much success in the short term, but their injuries haven't helped their cause.
Tim Taranto's out with concussion from that tackle, of course, from Toby Bedford. And they'll be coming up against a midfield that comprises Zach Butters, Connor Rozee and Ollie Wines. I think way too strong, Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question there. Just a question of whether Port can really put them to the sword.
Let's just move on. Happy with that.
Yep.
Brisbane v Sydney at the Gabba.
I said match of the round was Hawthorn Collingwood.
This is the match of the round.
This is the one
by far.
Yeah, by a margin. No, they're both. Great, but they're the two standout matches.
So this is the early game before the Freo game on Sunday. This will be 11 o'clock game over here, bright and early. Charlie Cameron will be missing for Brisbane. Isaac Heaney will be back for Sydney. Huge in after his big apology for missing a week, which I found absolutely bizarre. I don't understand all the chat around, like, why is Sydney so upset about GWS? And
that's good though. You know, we don't have, like next week we'll talk about in the Derby. Wouldn't it be good to have that a little bit of banter between the two clubs? And the Giants do it better than anyone. Their social media team's outstanding. Sydney, perhaps I believe that John Longmire might have teed off at a Jason McCartney or someone of that ilk from the Giants, obviously.
When? Recently?
Well, not so long ago, just about, if it wasn't Macca, it was certainly one of their other officials.
Yeah, well, Tom Harley hasn't been happy with his counterpart and Dave Matthews, CEO, that you're not happy with their treatment.
That's what we love it as fans, to have that engagement. And as long as you're not getting personal and saying anything that's going to...
Did you see Heaney's comeback yesterday?
Yeah. What is it? You concentrate on being comedians. We'll worry about sitting on top of the table. Is that roughly...
Good. That's a good
comeback.
That's
great.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So, look, this game's got a bit right. You mentioned Charlie Cameron out. I know he's at the appeals tribunal tonight, but, you're probably right. He misses... Brisbane, I was impressed but not sort of awestruck by them last week against the Eagles.
Yeah, but it's a tough trip, mate. To come over to Optus, you've got to be able to compete. Like that'd just be one of those games. Just
get it done.
Thank God we won that.
13 points. Yep. Take that. Everyone's talking about. I mean, least person to me 80 points before the game. I said, mate, I reckon if they can get away with 8 points, they'd be relatively happy. It's just that sort of game. Lockie Neal, 30 disposals. That's what he's averaging, and he's back in super form. Been impressed with Cam Rayner. He's a gun, and Harris Andrews has taken 21 contested marks in the midfield. He is just Inspector Gadget, and he does such a good role in preventing forwards taking the mark, but also creating himself.
The big thing here is going to be the midfield matchup. Lockie Neal, Josh Dunkley, Hugh McCluggage, and a little bit of Berry versus Heaney, Warner, Goulden, and Rowbottom. Rowbottom and Berry are the two sort of in and unders, and then the real Lamborghinis rolling around there, 3v3. That's going to be a very good battle. Arguably, you could say those 6 players, Neal, Dunkley, McCluggage, Heaney, Warner, Goulden, all in career best form. And that's saying something with Lockie Neal, 2-time Brownlow medalist.
Yeah, it's a huge game, isn't it? And I think it's essentially a 50-50 one if you're looking at it. Sydney's had the better body of work over the course of the season, but if you look at the last 2 months, Brisbane, and we know their record at the Gabba's been a bit sketchy this year, but it's a day game. I'm not sure what the weather forecast in Brisbane. Generally, it's pretty decent this time of the year.
It's a bit slippery.
No, not during the day. Day games are pretty decent, I think, up at the Gabba. But at night, you're right.
Who are you picking?
I've actually picked Brisbane in the paper, but
why do you always reference the paper? Is that
no? It's because you've got to put your tips in early. So,
okay. So I thought it was a bit of a flex.
No, it wasn't a flex at all. No. Because you've got to put them in on you dickhead. Oh yeah, I'm really an egomaniac. On a Wednesday, Thursday, you can put them in. So, but this is one I've tipped Brisbane only because it's there and they're in pretty good form. Sydney, you mentioned some of those names. They are in super form. They've just absolutely belted North Melbourne, and this might give us a better idea as to where both clubs are heading. Particularly Brisbane, not so much Sydney. We know they're going to finish top.
Yeah, I mean Sydney lost to the Dockers before the Kangaroos. And
lost to Saints.
They lost to the Saints. So they're not really in good form, are they?
No, but their body of work over the course of the season, I'm saying. Okay. The last 2 months, so Brisbane, you'd say, in better nick. But the best of Sydney
I'm picking Brisbane.
Yeah.
I don't think Sydney's playing very well at the moment.
Is that right?
Mm.
Oh, but they won by even North Melbourne, just smashed them.
Yeah, North Melbourne are irrelevant. Carlton v North Melbourne, Marvel at Sunday.
North Melbourne's playing some pretty good footy last month.
Well, how did they go against the best side in the competition? They were just wiped off the park.
They got whacked. But prior to that, and if you're a North Melbourne supporter, just get on, however you can get in touch with Scully on socials or emails or whatever you do, just do it.
Okay, please do, because you're playing Carlton this week, so you're going back-to-back, first and then second on the ladder. If you get done by 80 points again, please get in contact with me about how relevant you are.
Last week you were talking about they're improving, there's green shoots, Clarko's doing a good job.
I blow with the wind sometimes, Kate. I just like an autumn leaf, mate.
Gate. Who knows where you're going to end up? Like at a Trump rally, you're just not sure what's going to come out of your mouth.
Oh boy, am I Trump or am I the rifle? What am I? Okay, has potentially get pretty ugly, this one, I think. Blues would be hungry after a couple of losses in a row, of course. Yeah. GWS and Western Bulldogs over the last couple. Pretty unlucky for North, I think, playing like back-to-back and copying Carlton off two in a row. Same as Sydney.
Yeah, it's true. But I've been... after quarter time, they got absolutely spanked, as you know, because they were right in the game. But then Sydney just... Well, it was a bad time to get Sydney, let's be honest. They lost a couple. I don't... expect them to get within 5 or 6 goals. But Carlton, you talk about Sydney not playing great footy at the moment. Not's Carlton.
Yeah, little stats board. Does it have much info about Carlton and their stoppage stuff? Because I heard while I was driving in here, Carlton's stoppage game has gone in the toilet, basically. Their clearance and stoppage game has gone in the toilet. And they've been, to start this year, that's what their game was based on. That they were one of the strongest, but of late, that's gone backwards.
So since round 13, the Blues have conceded 45 points per game from clearances, ranked last defensively.
There you go.
And the Blues concede 41 points from clearances and 48 from intercepts per game. No team has ever finished the season conceding more points from clearances than intercepts. So particularly that first point backs up what you're saying.
My roughie of the week this week, Skeeter, I'm picking North Melbourne to knock off Carlton at Marvel Stadium.
Was that just a little charade, was it, you're playing with me? You're an absolute tool. Why do you do this? Is this to annoy me or not?
I think off the back of that stat you just rolled out to me, North Melbourne's midfield, who is promising, exciting and very relevant, beat Carlton.
Okay, so you're just winding me up. Okay. Really funny. Yeah, I'm picking Carlton.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast.
You're an absolute weirdo. Right.
All right.
Is that it?
Couple of questions for our listeners, Skeeter, the audience. We aren't just speaking to ourselves, even though sometimes it may feel like it, and we probably deserve to be honest. G'day, Scully and Skeeter. This came in on as an email, so thanks for sending this in, footycast at backchatstudios.com.au. This is a question about the new NGA rules allowing all clubs to once again bid on their players at any point in the draft. Should clubs who missed out on NGA talent in the last 4 drafts get some form of compensation? Maybe it's a discount on future NGA bids or an extra pick somewhere in the draft. It feels wrong that a club like Essendon can now benefit from having access to a top 10 NGA draft prospect this year, but Freo and West Coast missed out on their NGA players in the last few years. And I've got some examples, but your thoughts on that?
So I'm not sure about the retrospective stuff. That gets very messy trying to then reward clubs for the last 3 or 4 years that have missed out. But I think it's good news for Eagles and Dockers. I mean, given the NGA situation that's confronted them in recent times. So good news for them. And yeah, I think from a parochial point of view, that's a pretty decent step. I mean, Lance Collard was one of those players that came into the fray.
So Lance Collard, West Coast missed out on Jesse Motlop and Mitch Edwards. Freo missed on Riley Sanders at North Melbourne. That was him. And Mac Andrew was Melbourne aligned. So they're probably the best of the best that have been missed.
I think if you're doing the work on these NGA players over a period of time and you've got an academy of sort, I think you should be able to get a pretty decent look at them before other clubs.
Yeah, I don't understand why there would have been restrictions on it in the first place.
Yeah, well, it was such a low pick. Well, I think it was pick 40 or thereabouts for Collard.
So what are you actually? Are you trying to develop them, or are you trying to make them not actually that good so someone doesn't pick them up?
Well, yeah. Why develop and then just see them like St Kilda snatch Lance from under your nose?
Thanks, Liam. Great email. Over on YouTube, Skeeter. This is from S10. You guys never discussed the wind factor in Tassie is huge like no other ground. There's air pockets on ground and usually a scoring end in most games. Hawks had it in the final quarter.
Well, we weren't there, obviously, but they'll have called a couple of games there, and you're right, it's normally is it left of screen? Yep, left of screen, so we don't discuss it because I'm not sure that was the difference, but certainly it cost Fremantle their inability to score in, I think, the third quarter. They butchered the footy a bit in front of goal, so...
Andrew Kerr's got his thoughts on that. Freo really should have won by a goal or so. It frustrates me because other than Melbourne game this year, they haven't, and they being the Dockers, haven't put the foot on the throat of the opposition when they've had full ground dominance, which they had in the third and early into the fourth quarter. So maybe the Freo Dockers had something to do with that. And B-Dub24 finishes us off with, I reckon Jimby needs to get some time in defence to grow as a player, plus he needs a bit of a break after a season of hard running. I'd also like Hoff to get some time up the field to grow in that area. He spent all year on opposition star forwards and he could benefit up the ground. I don't mind both of those.
Yeah, don't mind. Although, having said that, Hoff's been outstanding and the job he's done on so many good players. I don't want to put the Brad Shepherd label on him, but he's got that ability, I think, to be the next Brad Shepherd. Is that too big?
Yeah, and you know that role is a sacrificial role at times, though, to go and play in the best player. So I think potentially I don't mind. From what I've seen with Hoffy with ball in hand, like he's good. He's got a really neat step on him. He's got a good kick and he's quick. So you may get more and more benefit out of playing him, on lesser types where he can get a bit more freedom. Ruben Jimby will play back for the rest of the year, I reckon.
Is that his natural habitat now?
Well, that's what he did as a junior at Wesley.
I mean, I'm not saying he can't be a midfielder down the track, but did Elliot Yeo not start as a more halfback? Yeah, so could he not sort of, I think we've talked about this before, could he not develop into that type of player, hopefully?
For me, Ruben has looked sore all year.
He doesn't look like
his groins look, and he had I don't think surgery, but he had groin issues in the preseason. He just looks like a bit stiff and sore. So I think a rest would go well for him too. Skeeter, that's us done and dusted. We got a couple of investment tips to follow on Patreon though. So make sure you sign up as a patron. You can join the Scully or Skeeter tier. You can find all of that at BackChat at shelterfootycast.com.au. And Skeeter, that's us done, mate.
That's us done.
That's us done.
Been a pleasure.
Freo tickets available on socials. Make sure you're following us. We're giving 2 away for the Melbourne game. Have a good weekend.
Go well.